Welcome to episode 155 of the XS Noize Podcast. I'm Mark Millar. Thanks for listening. In this episode, I speak to Ed and Tom from dream rock four-piece Junodream about their debut album, Pools of Colour. If you missed the previous episode, I spoke to Simple Minds bass guitar legend Derek Forbes. So check it out. And if you like the podcast, please subscribe on your favourite listening platform, give us a rating, and leave a comment. Sharing a deep connection that's the result of being best friends for a decade, alongside a DIY formula that's at the heart of everything they do. Junodream are building a captivating world within their tight community of fans and collaborators. In the 5 years since their inception, they've amassed nearly 500,000 monthly listeners on Spotify and over 23 million collective streams on DSPs, forging blistering and immersive live performances, including a rapturous set at this year's The Great Escape Festival in Brighton. In this interview, Ed and Tom discuss their fantastic debut album, Pools of Colour, and lots more. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the XS Noize Podcast with Junodream. So, hi Ed, hi Tom, welcome to the XS Noize Podcast.
Hey Mark, nice to be here.
Thanks for having us, Mark.
Absolutely great to have you. I love the new album, absolutely fantastic. But before we get into that, I always go back to the start. For both of you, can you remember the first band or artist that made you pay attention to music?
Mine was, my dad had CDs of Van Morrison. I can't remember the exact album, but it's the one with the sort of black silhouette against the autumn leaves. I think it was called Back on Top or Going Down Geneva. But that, in all honesty, that was, I think, the first CD I ever listened to was that.
Yeah, I used to be we had tapes in our car of Elvis, like all greatest hits of Elvis. And I used to have a little Elvis lunchbox where I'd take to school. And I just, even my 25th birthday, I had Elvis themed as well. So I think for me, it's always been the king, which might sound a bit weird given our music, but I just absolutely love Elvis.
At least you knew who Elvis was. There were loads of people. Remember, people used to wear the like Run DMC shirts and stuff without knowing who the artist was.
Yeah, that still happens. What's the other popular one? Nirvana?
Yeah. It'd be great if people started wearing Junodream tees without knowing what Junodream was.
That's actually the aim. That's what we want.
Aim to do some massive brand partnership with Top Man or something. Yeah.
When did you guys meet? When did you form Junodream?
It was at school we met. We were in different classes, different age groups. But over the course of our early teens, we met at school, and we instantly formed a band, a really, really bad one. And then progressively over the years, we got better until the stage where it came to 2018, and we thought we're hopefully good enough to do this properly. So that was when Junodream was born.
I read that you chose the band name to not mean anything and to build a universe and have a new word in the dictionary. So has Junodream made it into a dictionary yet?
Not yet, I think. Well, I think when we were thinking of the name, because our school band name we came up with about 5 minutes before our first show, and we just decided not to make that mistake again. So we kind of we got open the dictionary. We just thought about what bands do we like and how do they come up with a name. They basically just slam two random words together, and so like Radiohead's, Coldplay, blah blah blah. And so I think there's a B-side of a Pink Floyd's release, and then one of them is called Julia Dream, a B-side of a Pink Floyd track called Julia Dream. So we kind of just went Junodream, bang.
We're a group of thieves.
Can you remember the first song that you wrote together that you thought, right, this is a really good song, we're on to something here?
I'll be honest, we've called it wrong many times. We've written songs. I think we always get excited by new songs. So new songs were always like, this is really, really good. And then you live with it. There's a sort of fine line. You've got to live with it a little bit to gain context enough to really gauge, is it actually good? But then if you live with it too long, you don't have any of that sort of early gauge on the track itself at all. So there's a certain sweet spot. I would, however, say there was a moment when we started Junodream we all sat down together, going through all our demos and laptop ideas. And we went through and played Galactica. And I think that was a moment where we sat down and decided from what we were at the time, because that was going to be our first song, from our early school days, we're like, this is a little bit of a leap. We're using various synths and all these sort of abstract sounds, but it was the one we were most excited about and represented us the most. So I think that was the first song where we thought, actually, this is hopefully a step up from what we've been doing up until then.
It's got all the junodream sort of notes. It hits all the right spots. We've yet to make a song as junodreamy. Is that yet?
It's a great song. Is that the song where in the video you're dancing about in the line?
Oh, which one's that one? Oh, that's Eden Burns, I think. That was that one. That one's been total Marmite, that song, and the video as well. We just it's kind of in a weird it's kind of in a quite an abrasive time signature to listen to. It jumps through a couple of quite annoying. You can't really get into a groove when you listen to it. That was kind of the point. But that was a video where I learned the entire song in reverse. I learned how to sing it in reverse, and then we performed it and then played it. I did everything in reverse as well, I think. And then, so when you play it forward again, it looks like you're moving in a very jerky motion, and you're doing the right mouth for it going forward.
Can you remember any of it?
It's like ne na nu resides mi salanya.
If you're listening and you're putting in the effort, rewind that and see if that makes any sense.
No, I remember watching the video and thinking to myself, those guys must be absolutely shattered at the end of the day after filming that.
we also had to scrub the floor afterwards because we put like this oily paint all over this like infinity wall. So we spent the whole night. Oh, it was brutal. Even
recently, we did a music video for the first single from the album, The Beach. And in that, there was these feathers that were getting blown across people's faces. And at the end of the day, we had to sweep. I can't put into words how many feathers there were in this huge warehouse. And because we were shooting late and going right up to the limit of how long we had the space for, we were absolutely panicking, putting all this sand as well. We had
20 bags of sand as well. Oh, it was grim. Don't do music videos.
But junodream will release your debut album, Pools of Colour, in January. And I've been lucky enough to hear it, and it's absolutely excellent. When did you start the album?
Oh, God. It's a great question. When was it, Tom? I can't even remember. It was all, the songs come first, and then when trying to get together a bunch of 10 that will sound cohesive together, that's a whole different stage. And then getting into the studio and recording. So I think the songs came around the end of 21, right?
Yeah.
Tom? And then we started recording it in
last summer.
Yeah,
last spring, summer. Yeah, the start of summer last year.
And then we went out flogging it so we could do some music videos.
We'd been stuck with it, in the sort of writing and recording and mixing it for so long that you do lose a sense of if it's any good or not. So it's quite good to get some feedback from others in the other artists and those in the industry to find out if you've completely lost your mind or if it is all right. And yeah, we think it is. We think it is great. But yeah, it did take 2021, wrote it, 2022, recorded it, and it's coming out next Jan.
And we've already got like a name for the next album, and already actually this weekend we're doing a writing trip for the next album. So we're kind of like we're moved beyond now, but it's nice to finally it's going to be so good to get it out, because like these songs we think are all better than everything we've done before. Like the meaning of the whole album is cohesive. It just really fits in a way that like no release we've done so far has in the same way.
There is this weird, sorry, I know I'm sort of digressing a little bit from the question, but there is this sort of weird sensation as an artist where you're always, say, 6 months at least ahead of what's actually publicly out there. So you can be really excited about something that, what's actually going on, album 2 or whatever it is. But then people are only just catching up with the first single from album 1. So it's a bizarre thing where sometimes where you'll be really excited because it's all happening behind the scenes, but not much is publicly happening, vice versa. So it can be hard to, there's a lot of sort of having to go back and think of what the mindset was at the time of doing it.
The band's been together, I think, is it 5 years, and you've released quite a lot of music. You've 2 EPs, and you've toured extensively. Did you feel that you had to take your time before releasing the debut album?
Yeah, I think for sure I was going to say, when you know. There was a general feeling in the camp that, we'd done a string of singles and EPs, and really, without knowing it had been a sort of sonic exploration in finding our own identity. And once we were really felt sort of secure in the sonic identity of junodream, we thought, this is the time now. It feels right to put together, a more cohesive collection of songs and make an album. So yeah, that was the sort of thinking there. It kind of naturally just felt right eventually.
You write and produce all your own music in your self-built studio called Shabby Road. You design the artwork. You even create your own podcast, Dreamcast. Do you enjoy the DIY approach, and has it been a difficult journey?
Yeah, I think we've kind of out of necessity. I don't think there are like DIY artists and non-DIY artists. There's just like signed bands and not signed bands. Like if you want to do music and try and try your best, that you have to do everything yourself. It's so everything's very expensive. It's a real privilege to be able to even make music or even own any musical equipment. Like it's a struggle, but I think you get a lot more satisfaction out of it. It's just creative, right? Like the podcast that we do, it doesn't really, I think only like 300 people listen to it or something, and it takes a long time to edit and make, but it's just like, I really enjoy that. Like it's a creative endeavor. And I think if we were to sit back and look like, what's the purpose of us doing this? We would definitely not be for a financial incentive at all. It's just like, it's because we've always done music, and it gives you a bit of a purpose. And so I think, the DIY elements of that really like additive, I guess.
Well, the album features songs about tech billionaires, anxiety, a drunk driver being abducted by aliens. There's so many brilliant songs on the album. So let's get into some of them. I love the opening track, Fever Dream. I love the backwards guitars. I love the whole vibe of the song. It's a fantastic album to begin the album with. What can you tell me about that track, and why did you choose to have it as the first track?
There's kind of like, that song, the first lyric of it is "This is a new day," and the last song, the last two songs are "Lullaby" and then "The Oranges," which is about dreams. So there is kind of like we didn't really mean it to be like that, but there is a kind of sunrise, sunset throughout the album. And so Fever Dream is really the opening of it. And it's supposed to kind of, the music at the beginning is supposed to catch you a bit. It's a bit like janky and a bit, uncomfortable to listen to. And I think that's what we kind of wanted to hit the ground running with that. But also in terms of the themes, kind of set some of the dystopian themes, or some of the kind of slightly more unsettling themes from the very beginning.
So when you were getting to record the album and the songs, did you sit down and sort of have preconceived ideas of the kind of sound you wanted for the songs?
I would say the meaning and the sounds don't necessarily get written together. So there'll be, when songs are presented in demo form, there's a clear sort of emotional value within that song, which then can be extracted and interpreted and developed into a different, or a specific meaning. I do remember with this Fever Dream and just all the songs, we did have the majority of them in a vague sort of laptop style voice memo demo form, and we got them into a SoundCloud playlist. So we had a rough idea of even ordering at that stage as well, because there are some tracks on the album where Lullaby, for example, as it sounds, it is a sort of slow, very slow melodic track, which you wouldn't necessarily put as your opener for the album. That was always going to come later on. But with these demos, we sat down and thought, okay, how are we going to, before we even, discuss like lyrics in detail, how are we going to get all the sounds of this album to be coherent, all the same. And so we did spend I remember it was a day or even a day and a half, 2 days, sat in with a guy called Simon Burt who co-produced the album. So he was really instrumental in developing the sound that was on the album in terms of his knowledge of synths, and a lot of ad production stuff where it'd be, spinning certain things around tape echoes and various bits of, hardware equipment that we, hadn't been able to use before, or only in sort of fake laptop versions of. Yeah, we discussed, drums, layering drums, vocal styles, and even what reverbs we're going to use, what delays we're going to use, because it'd be good to use the same reverbs across the record and everything. So we got pretty granular about it, and then went from there.
The first taster from the album was the single "The Beach," which we mentioned. It's absolutely amazing. It's probably my favorite track on the album. Why did you choose to put out that song first as the taster for the album, and what can you tell me about it?
I think that one was it's kind of similar to Galactica. It was like, it's one of the most Juno dreamy songs on the records. It's quite indulgent, I guess. It's like nearly 5 minutes long, but it kind of just sets out the stall a bit in terms of what to expect in the album sonically, and lyrically as well. The way that song kind of came about was Dougal had a kind of chorus already for it. And we sat in he had a chorus for a different song. We just sat in Shabby Road with a beat loop and just playing random stuff. The verse is basically just an open A chord and then taking the middle finger off. I'm not a great guitar player. I just played that over and over again and just sang some random stuff. That ended up being the verse. And then we just slammed a chorus together. And then Tom started to layer in that amazing guitar riff that plays throughout the chorus. And that it kind of just came together really organically. The lyrics then just came afterwards. I was on a beach in Aberystwyth having a pretty low moment. And so it all kind of just came together like that. That one felt like the least effort went into it in the sense of creating it. And I think that's why it feels quite Juno dreamy, just at its very core.
No, it's a great track. I love the guitar parts the whole way through the album. Very atmospheric, and they're fantastic. Death Drive, it was the next single. So it's so atmospheric. What can you tell me about that?
Death Drive was the one that not that one like sticks out more than the rest, but perhaps there was just something that song gave a different flavor, something we didn't necessarily have in the album. It was quite dry beta band Beck style in early demo form. We were all excited by it because it's quite rare for us to go down a very simple pop structured. I mean, that's sort of as fundamentally like rudimentary writing as the album goes, but yet it just sounded exciting. And yeah, I don't know what necessarily the word is, but we thought it had to be on there, but we didn't know how to necessarily tackle it. So there was quite a lot of work done with that, especially with all the drums, especially making that, giving the sort of, there was at one stage, an early demo, we had lots of these drums laid up and it went really hip hop, old like 90s hip hop vibe, too far, drag that back. Simon Burt then added in these, the synth that was the Selena, had these sort of string sounds which are very Moby-esque come in, and that dragged it more instantly into a more trip hoppy realm. And then various other elements we were able to sort of drag it in with the rest of the album. So yeah, it fitted sonically eventually, but the reason it was there in the first place was because we were all excited and we knew it had if any song has a sort of like, your normal expected single shape, that song offered that.
Are there any rituals or routines that you follow to get into the creative mindset when you're working on new music?
I think we all do it. We all approach it in a completely different way. So like the way we write songs is where each of us has Logic Pro, or, we write, demos, etc., record a voice note, and we kind of just present it to each other. So we don't really get into a room that often, apart from what we're doing. We go on occasional writing trips to Scotland to Andover, wherever. But yeah, it's usually quite like individual focused, and then it's like it's quite good practice, I think, just to kind of get a song to fruition rather than bring kind of like a verse or something to the table where it's difficult for other people to know where you're going with it. Sometimes it works, like with the beach, but I think most of the time it's better that we all kind of just present finished stuff. It's good practice anyway.
Yeah, I think a lot of that was, of course, forced by COVID when that happened. Because when we were younger, we would certainly be writing just we'd go into rehearsal room and just write tunes together. But then we found doing, like Ed says, the more individual, once we learned to do the laptop demo type thing, we realized that we actually worked really well doing it like that. So that is our main way in which we write now. However, it does mean, because we more rarely actually just get in a room and just write from scratch, when that does happen, ironically it's more productive because it's a rarer thing.
Yeah, like the Oranges, the last track on the album was written like I had this piano idea just on its own, but didn't really do anything. It was fine. And then we got into a studio in Scotland and just started smashing the kit out to it, and it just created suddenly gave its different impetus, and it just felt really right. And that one's probably one of the most live created ones on the album.
Yeah,
it's a fantastic way to end the album. I just love the soaring guitars.
All of that on the Oranges as well is, sorry to jump there, but all of that is actually from that rehearsal space in Scotland. We did try and re-record it, but somehow it lost that energy. So yeah, what you hear on the record is just from that rehearsal. I'm sure in sort of traditional fashion, if you listen close enough, there are things that shouldn't be in there, and shouts and all sorts of technically wrong things. But yeah, it was organic and raw, that one, to finish off.
Yeah, it's a great way to end. As I said, it's probably my second favorite track. I remember hearing it for the first time and just going, what's that? And the new single is Kitchen Sink Drama, I believe.
Yes.
That one was really, actually, Tom, you speak about it, because I don't think I was massively involved with that one, to be honest.
I think Kitchen Sink and The Beach were the two that were sort of the foundation blocks of the rest of the album being created around that, I think. Kitchen Sink was an early one. Dougal came up with that idea, looping around. He has this acoustic guitar which broke. So then he put some nylon strings on. So it's actually it's a completely wrong classical guitar. It wasn't intended to be like that, but it's got this unique sound. And yeah, Dougal, I don't know where the song, maybe Ed, you'll know where the song sort of came from in terms of its meaning and emotion behind that.
I know where it comes from, but I don't want to string him out. So let's just say it's just a feeling of claustrophobia.
Claustrophobia, yeah. That one, unfortunately, that was very much Dougal did the bulk of that. So it came, like we talked about writing individually, that came pretty much there. So we didn't have to decorate it much to finish it off.
I think this will be, when it comes out, we've played it live quite a lot. So last few gigs, we've seen people singing along to it, which is alarming. But I think it's going to be a lot more of a kind of, for the fans of ours that really like Nobody Wants You, and the kind of more rocky type ones. It's a bit more of a sort of explosion of that type of expression. So hopefully that should fill the needs.
But you crumped it, yeah.
The band, you had a short run of UK dates in September, but you'll be back on the road in February next year, 2024, in support of the album, which kicks off at the Deer's Head in Belfast. So I'm quite looking forward to going to that show. How much are you looking forward to coming to Belfast in Ireland and the overall tour that you're going to be doing?
We've been to Dublin before, but we've never been to Belfast as a band. So I actually think we drove through it to get to Dublin when we were supporting the Backseat Lovers. So I have not really been to Dublin that much. To Belfast. I'd love to go and check it out. So it's a great place to start. Have you been to the Deer's Head before?
Yes.
What's it like?
No, it's a good venue. It's a very popular venue.
Perfect.
Yeah, no, massively excited for that. I've never been to Belfast either, so yeah, excited.
Your song "To the Moon" is still your most streamed song on Spotify. Why do you think that song still resonates with so many people?
I think like the song is, it's got like 6 lines in it. It's very it's just a very simple song about anxiety, really. The feet on your brain, how I wonder, the lyrics, I think they're just quite simple. The song is stripped back, it's intimate. I think it's done well on Spotify because it's kind of a chilled song as well. I think chilled tracks tend to kind of resonate on Spotify a bit as well. I don't know. Even whenever we play it in our set, it seems to still, capture people's attention. For some people, kind of, I don't know, it just hits somewhere in them. But I don't know whether it's the song, the lyrics, maybe it's just a perfect storm of things. But yeah, I mean, I still love playing it as well. It's a weird one. We didn't think it was going to do well, so we kind of just threw it up there, and we were thinking about taking it off Spotify a few weeks after we put it up there. But thank God we didn't do that. I mean, absolutely. The thing is, you never know what's gonna resonate. Some songs which we think are going to be our biggest thing don't, and then some of it we had no intention of being do. So yeah,
it was a happy accident, that song.
If people want to understand the music of junodream, what are the 5 songs they should listen to?
Okay, what do you reckon, Tom?
The 5 junodream tracks. Are we able to take tracks from the album?
Any of your songs?
Okay. So we're gonna go, as mentioned before, we'll go to Galactica, The Beach, and then To the Moon.
Travel Guide.
Travel Guide, and then another one from the album. I actually weirdly want to say Lullaby.
Lullaby's a great track. Lullaby's kind of like White Sunday a bit.
I think we talked about before the album and knowing we were ready for an album because we've been on this sort of sonic journey. Part of that sonic journey, there was a phase where I think we got too far into the sort of when I say rock energy side of things without focusing on melody too much, or more so that we just lost our focus on the power of melody within our tracks. And so the reason for saying Lullaby is because it's back to our strengths. It's relaxed. It is what it is. It's not trying to be anything it's not, and it's incredibly melodic.
So what ambitions do you have going forward for the band? What's on the musical bucket list?
I think we recently played some shows with a big American band called the Backseat Lovers, and we played in some pretty big venues. And I think that was just being on the stage and looking around and soaking it in. I think we all just wanted a bit more of that, but coming back on our own terms. And we've got we've got quite a specific idea in mind for art direction and how we want a show to look from a lighting point of view. How we want to create like a junodream experience, but we're kind of limited by the sort of shows that we can, or the sort of size of venues we can play at just at the moment. But I think we just want to really express ourselves in that way, in the more holistic way. So I think definitely playing in some of the bigger venues, getting to be a band that gets to play sort of 3,000 cap venues regularly, that would be amazing. Obviously, everyone would say play headline Glastonbury and do all the become an international mega band, and that would be great as well. But first things first, become that sort of level of band would be fantastic.
Yeah, like we say, we started off by talking about junodream being a word in the dictionary, or Ed talking about it being a live experience as a visual and audio. It's a world of junodream. Our ambition is to create an entire sort of world of junodream where it's a shared feeling and experience, and through which there's sort of like connection and connection, shared experience.
I think like the weirdest thing when you play, when you do go on tour and, you know, you don't consider yourself a very, you know, well-known or big band, and the number of people that come up and talk about how, you know, this song has helped. I mean, you'd be really surprised how many times this happens. People say this song helped me through this time. It was a really bad time for me. This means so much to me. You know, people coming up with very old junodream t-shirts and things like that. And it's like it's very difficult nowadays, I think, to kind of find connection with strangers, you know, in a real genuine way. And I feel like live music and you know, traveling around like that really creates this. It's just a very special thing. It makes you feel more connected with people around you, and that's something that you get. It's quite unique from being in a band for people like. So, I mean, doing more of that. If you could make that your full time, you know, something you did for your whole life, you know, you'd feel, I think, probably pretty fulfilled. So that's the aim.
And that's what it's all about. When people tell you how certain songs make them feel, you know, that's the payoff. You know, you're doing something right. You're connecting. You know,
yeah, because you've just, you know, ultimately we've just made something out of thin air, and it's just an idea. And if you can have a nice impact on people, and people come with you for, you know, what the thing you've made up from thin air. It just feels really. There's no other walk of life where you get that same thing.
I like to ask my guests the following questions. For us music fans, music is the soundtrack to our memories. So what song or album, when you listen to it, brings back the best memories for you?
That's a great question, because I remember speaking with someone about, what's the sort of soundtrack of your memories, right? And the point is you can't choose. So if anyone has a soundtrack of their memories throughout their life, and it's purely, you know, grade A tracks, which are unbelievably good and like respectable tracks, I know it's just complete, you know, can I swear? But, you know, rubbish. It's just complete rubbish. I think for me, a few songs that spring to mind, complete random, is Edelweiss, Sound of Music. It will be Robbie Williams' Sing for the Lonely, or The Road to Mandalay, an early CD I had. There'll be a Dire Straits song, maybe Songs to Swing. There'll be, I don't know, a few others, but it'll be a complete random collection.
I think my one, if I was to pick an album, and might sound really weird, but I like this album so much, but it was Continuum, but John Mayer album. Whenever I hear Gravity, I think I must have been like 14 or 15 when I listened to that album, and it just like puts me in a completely different world. I know he's not like the most liked bloke ever, but that album is just crystallized that period of time for me. I don't know what it is. Whenever I come back to it, I feel this crazy wave of nostalgia for that time.
I don't know that record. I must check that out.
Oh, there's some great tunes on there. Absolutely fantastic.
Out of all the music in your collection, which artist or band do you have the most albums by?
You've got a bunch of vinyls, Tom, don't you? So
I'm that guy now trying to collect vinyls with, you know, you spare 20 quid every now and then when you can. I instantly did get a lot. I'll be honest, I got a lot of Radiohead albums straight off the bat, because that is for a good few years of my life, that was probably 80% of what I listened to.
Yeah, let's not pretend. Let's not pretend that it's not Radiohead. Like I've got In Rainbows like up on a poster in my room.
Yeah, because there's that moment, you know, where the reason why they're sort of like just the generic is because everyone has that moment where you've got into music, and then there's like the next level of getting into music, which is when you sort of understand Radiohead, and then there's sort of further, and then you discover all these further genres. But I think that's because it's almost like the Radiohead is a perfect example of the sort of gatekeeping moment within your like musical listening journey, which is why so many people probably also just from early days just resonate with that.
What would be your favorite Radiohead album?
In Rainbows, probably, like I said.
Yeah. Well, my favorite tune is Deck's Dark from Moonshaped Pool. That is just perfection.
I
remember paying for in Rainbows for the download.
Yeah,
back in the day.
I miss those days when we were teenagers. Like all you had to do was like focus on when you released a song was like iTunes and Facebook, And now it's like every platform, every social media stuff. Simpler times.
When it was 79p for a song.
Yeah.
But you'd actually get money from a song.
The good old days.
Exactly.
What song or album is your guilty pleasure?
So many. There's so many.
Yeah. I don't have a specific album, but I do, on my Spotify, I do have a playlist of which I can even get up. It's not a guilty pleasure because I've no guilt about it, but there's a sort of nostalgia playlist where we've got, let's have a look. Here we go. We've got a lot of Travis, Feeder, Star Sailor, Een are on there. Here we go. Broken Strings by James Morrison.
Actually, I'd say that as well. I've just started re-listening to all those great James Morrison tracks from when we were younger.
I think
such a good voice.
I think a lot of noughties songs, to be honest. A lot of, when you're younger and you get the Now CDs, it's basically those compilations.
Yeah, Venga Boys, basically.
Well, the first three you mentioned, Tom, Travis, Feeder and Star Sailor have all been on this podcast. So
no way.
Good choices.
Unbelievable. Well, they're on there with Shania Twain. She's in there.
So guys, that's me done. Is there anything you'd like to mention before we wrap up? Anything else coming up in the immediate future?
I think for now we've got our debut album Pools of Colour is out on the 26th of January. We've got like a bunch of vinyls and stuff that we've made, so you can check them out on our website, and then we're just going to follow it up with that tour in February. So we start 16th of February in Belfast and we finish on the 29th of February in Exeter, and we're hitting up a bunch of places obviously in between, playing at Village Underground in London, so it'll be our biggest show to date. We're going to play kind of a bunch of stuff from the new album that no one will have heard before, some of the classics that people know, and we're just going to try and make it a kind of different live experience, and hopefully you'll figure that out when you come.
And please come say hi.
Yeah. There's no point driving the length and breadth if we don't get to meet some of the fans.
No, guys, that's me done. I really enjoyed that there. Thanks very much.
Hey.
Thank you. Hopefully some of that was all right for you.
Yeah, hopefully some of it's usable.
Cool.
Okay.
And
it's been really fun. Thank you.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to seeing you in Belfast, and all the best with the album. It really is good. Really have been playing it quite a lot. I've had it for a few weeks.
Thank you very much, mate.
It's a great album with headphones as well.
Yeah,
that's probably why you intended it that way.
It's a bit chunkier when you get the headphones on there.
Yeah. We've even tried with we've done a spatial audio mix of the album as well for Apple. Wow. So when that comes out, but it's a funny thing when we were there doing it with this guy Claudius who was doing the spatial mix. He said the thing is that you can't. It's not like a file where you can just put in your phone and listen to spatial audio. So the first time you'll get to really listen to it is actually when it's released. So we're sort of all hoping that the references and everything are still balanced. No, that's right. But we're also quite excited for us as well. We're quite excited to listen to that when that comes out.
Brilliant, guys. Well, again, thanks very much for taking the time to do this. I wish you all the best with the album, and I'll see you in Belfast in February.
Yeah, likewise. See you then.